Quest Audiobooks presents an unabridged recording of Charlie by Finn Oge, narrated by Nicholas Boulton. One crowded hour of glorious life is worth an age without a name. Mordaunt. For Wee Lachlan, never forgotten. Prologue. He knew they'd come for him. Deep down. It was inevitable, really, despite his precautions. "We'll be safe at sea," he'd assured her. Yet somewhere at the back of his mind he'd been waiting for it. Perhaps even willing it. As soon as the movement woke him, he knew he hadn't been careful enough. All the planning, all the thinking, all the precautions, and still they'd been found. His initial thought was that he'd underestimated them. In actual fact, he'd misidentified them. Chapter 1. Sam sat on the afterdeck and watched the light fall from the loch. He thought of the contentment he'd once drawn from the rise and set of the sun. The down and the dawn over a calm sea had brought peace, prospect, hope, excitement. Now they crept upon him as a menacing reminder of all that remained undone. The red and orange retreat before him was the most peaceful he'd seen since his return. But it was hopeless. No quiet, no touch, no gentle benevolence or sympathy would settle him. He knew he'd succumb. He thought of how he'd tried to stick to what he knew when he got home, but therein lay the problem. There was little call for his questionable talents in the real world. It had been 20 years since he'd known anything else. Back then it had been boat work, so that was where he began. But he felt that notion slipping away, like the ashes he'd shaken into a gentle sea breeze. The only thing that had held him back thus far was Isla, their daughter. He stiffened, correcting himself. His daughter. For 3 days his little girl had suffered without him, as some half ahead from logistics thrashed around to get him replaced and repatriated from Bastion. He turned instead to imagining what had happened, outlines flickering like a slideshow in the fresh darkness. Isla had been placed with his parents, which was as good as it could possibly have been, but as soon as the news broke, he knew he'd never wear webbing again.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?